It's like I talk about their calendar integration being kind of weak, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting because if I'm emailing someone back and they say, "Hey, can you meet tomorrow or Thursday?" I'll open the email and the right panel will pull up a little view of Thursday, and I can toggle through. If I click on each one, it'll show me my day.
Oh, wow.
And even if I'm typing like, "Hey, are you guys free Thursday?" As soon as I say Thursday, it pops up my calendar.
Oh, wow.
And it shows me what I have.
You should get me an invite to this.
Welcome to The Experience, brought to you by Weave.com, a show that explores what it takes to compete on customer experience and build an online company that can last decades. As always, thanks for being a supporter of the show.
So in today's show, I've brought on Superhuman.
Cool. I'm excited to chat about it.
So I know you know a little bit about it, but so I have a lot of info. But I know that you picked the drink for today's show because you know a little bit about Superhuman.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us a little about the drink?
I will. So for those that can see said drink, it's just in this gorgeous glass. So this is called an improved whiskey cocktail.
I love it.
So cheers. So an improved whiskey cocktail is basically an early reworking of an old fashioned.
I love
the most
it, yeah.
classic of cocktails, right? So Superhuman, a reworking of a very basic, been around forever kind of notion of email, how to make it better. Improved whiskey cocktail, same idea. They change up a few things. I think they're even a little bit presumptuous with the name that is improved.
Yeah. So is this an improved old fashioned and then improved email? The theme of the show.
Those are two presumptions we're talking about. Yes.
Cool. Right. Yeah. So I do. So Superhuman has. So let me tee up Superhuman as a company.
Okay.
So obviously it's in the email space. It was founded in 2015. There's 3 co-founders, and I don't know some of the other guys. I know Raul, the main CEO. Uh-huh. He was the guy that started Raperative. That was I don't know if you remember. It was a Gmail extension that you could put on there, and it would pull up like LinkedIn and like social stuff like as you got an email from the person. I used the plugin for a long time, and then that was actually acquired by LinkedIn, and he started LinkedIn Intro. And then eventually they peeled off.
Did he work for LinkedIn?
Yeah, okay. And then they started Superhuman. So the other guys are Conrad Irwin and Vivek Sidera. Hopefully I pronounced that right. To date,
sorry, Jay, did you say when they started?
Yeah, founded in 2015.
15. Oh, so it's been a minute. Okay.
Yeah, and it's crazy because actually I'll get into the story. This will actually blow your mind. So that to funding to date, they've had $51 million in funding.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, and like a little tidbit from it. So in July 27, 2019, so this year, Superhuman announced a $33 million investment by Andreessen Horowitz, bringing the company's total funding to $51 million. The company's roughly valued at $260 million.
Okay, I had to put a little context wrapper on this because I haven't looked at them for a few months, but are they still in a private beta?
They still kind of act like it. Yeah, you can't go sign up. You have to get an invite. They have 100. They have. Let me get the right number that I grabbed here. But they have 150,000 plus people on a waiting list.
Oh shit! Seriously,
haven't gotten in yet? No, they haven't let them in.
Oh man!
And you can jump the line if you get referrals. So if like when I got access to it and I referred you, you get into it. Gotcha. So,
but so just put a pause on that for a second. They have over 50 million in funding, 20 before they got that big 33 bump.
Yep.
And that's all while they've been basically behind doors. It was only the last year they even started like getting folks in. Last 9 months maybe?
Yeah, they have so just to wrap it up, so in terms of the company details. So they have 22 employees I could find as of December 2018. So that was almost a year ago. On LinkedIn, it's showing 55 people, but you can also see they're like investors and advisors. Gotcha. So I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah.
And then just total revenue and churn rate. I don't have revenue. You could maybe guess where it's. We know it's $30 a month, and they have 15,000 onboarded customers that I could find as of today.
Okay.
So they got a decent chunk.
So what's that ARR then? They're
about $450K a month.
Okay.
Do the math right there in my head.
Yep. Wait, is that right? Oh, okay. So they have so that's interesting. So let's put that lens in front of all this. So you have a company that's gotten a lot of validation from like the investment space, right?
Yep.
They're basically coming into a space a lot of other people have screwed with, like email. It's not like the first time, right?
Well, and you know what's even funny is like he talks about it. The CEO talks about it. Is I don't know if you remember. Was it Airmail or Dropbox bought a email company?
It was called I know what you're talking about. I can picture the logo.
They came out. Everybody was all excited about it, and Dropbox acquired them.
Yeah.
And then they closed them down, and they never did anything with it. And he even talked about like, man, I was so excited about what we were gonna do, and nothing ever happened. So I guess that he's clearly been in the email space for a long time.
Well,
so
this guy was not part of that, was he?
No, he was not. Yeah,
gotcha.
But he knew all about it, and he had an article that I read about. He's actually. I mean, I just want to keep. It seems like the whole team, the founding team's really smart, and they have a very distinct approach with the way they think about things and build things, and he talks a lot about product market fit. I've
had like a little bit of a taste of all those edges, but not the full that you have. So I'm interested for you to dive into it. So, but I'm trying. The bigger way I'm looking at this is I've got a company that has a lot of resources right now. They have a lot of people backing their play. They're doing some smart stuff on the product and also on how they're like kind of trying to get it to customers. But they're still at the beginning of that process in some respects. And they have a lot of back pressure, not back pressure, they have a lot of excitement.
Yes.
A lot of people
No, and I don't know if it's like the still a little mystery, you know, it's like what is
the Velvet Rope kind of club vibe.
Yeah, like I can't get in there, but it looks dark in there and there's lots of lights on. Like it sounds
beat's dope.
Yeah, the beat's good. So okay, so we can do this. So I can go through a little bit more company background if you want, or we can dive into some of our experience with it and the experience I found with it.
I mean, definitely the experience, but I would say if there's any other context.
Let me give you a little bit more background. This is
Okay.
interesting.
Right.
So I took some quotes from some of the articles he had written. I thought these were the most interesting. So they set up shop and started coding Superhuman in 2015. A year later, the team had grown to 7, and they were still coding. So by the summer of 2017, they had reached 14 people, and they're still coding. So just to recap, 2 years of coding with 14 people, and they had yet to launch anything.
Did they have any funding at that point? Do you know?
Yeah.
They did, okay.
I felt an intense pressure to launch from the team and also within myself. My previous startup, Rapportive, Rapportive?
That sounds like it might be more, because you have rapport,
had launched, scaled, and been acquired by LinkedIn in less time than what they had basically been building this thing. The product market fit. Okay, so basically my whole point of that topic was they spent 2 years, and it actually reminds me a lot of Weave. I feel like we've spent about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
We have paying customers. We have brought people in, but we still kind of have that walled garden approach where you can't really come and sign up. But and he talks a lot about the reason it's a very it's a conscious choice. He said, I understand, launch fast and fail quick and fix it. But he's like, I feel like at the same time, there's so much of that going on that if you can go to market with something that's stable and secure and trusted, you can get a lot of early fans. And he talks a lot about your first 1,000 users being so important. And you can see it in the product, it spoke a lot to me.
So just to stop there for a second. So that's really interesting because when you're going into a space that you have a lot of options, right? And there's a lot of friction to get someone away from something else. And you also have such a utility thing that most people don't want to fuck with that. Like, if it works, it takes a lot of gravity to move you away from that.
And you got to pay for it. And how long? And what? When do you pay for email?
Exactly. Pay for email.
Yep.
And they're like what? They're like $30 a month.
Yes, $30 a month.
So that's even. Is it really $30 a month?
Yeah, I pay it.
And you still do, which is what I come back to. So that's actually people are spending between $300 and $400 a year for email. So that's interesting. So to your point, two things. One, you have to be amazing when you come out of the gate to keep people. Otherwise, you're going to come behind that rope and just bail, right? Two, this whole thing they're basing it on is on referral. Like the reason this was cool is because you heard how amazing it was. And you'd hear from other people how interesting it was.
I'm trying to think what I think it was? It was really, I got a couple emails from people that read an email that said sent via Superhuman.
Okay.
And I went to the site, and yet, of course, there was this invite thing. And I was like, that's interesting.
It was kind of bubbling around.
And then on Twitter, I saw a lot of friends talking about it, and they were talking, So, okay. So the next thing is, so he talks a lot about product market fit and the reasoning, I think, why they waited so long. So
to dial in.
I love this piece. So this is actually super valuable for anyone that's building a product, looking for that product market fit. I think this is a really powerful way to look at it. Because a lot of times it's like, hey, if people are paying for it, then, you found your product market fit, kind of thing. I'm distilling it down pretty simply, but you get what I'm saying. So he said, I found there was a lot of examples of definitions for it, but they were lagging indicators. By the time investment bankers are staking out at your house, you already have product market fit. So what he found was just ask users this one lead indicator question. How would you feel if you could no longer use the product? And so he says, measure the answer by who's very disappointed. And what he says is the magic number is 40%. So if companies that struggle to find growth almost always had less than 40% of users respond with very disappointed. So what he's saying is if you get 40% of people that are just raving fans, they'll be extremely disappointed if you stop making your product, you've found product market fit. So he started looking at
critical mass.
Yeah, and if we can put it in the show, but there's a link to an article where he breaks down Slack and he breaks down the whole approach that they took, the way they emailed their customers. And once they emailed their customers and they got the feedback, they kind of took the very disappointed customers and learned a little bit more about them. Are they business owners? Are they executives? Are they startups?
Oh, so they kept rolling it in rate to try and push that number
and they really found the right person that way. And I thought it was like almost a reverse engineer approach and just a different way to kind of like look for that first 1,000 users that absolutely love your product.
Because you said kind of a couple different things there. So one is, were they tweaking their product for a certain market, or did they also, you said find the right person, did they also realize
both
through that process of who their ideal?
Yeah, and then they talked a lot about how they stack ranked their roadmap based off this results, and they were like, look, because even to get into like right now, I mean, if I talk about the product, they have features that normally I might actually expect in an email that they don't have, but everything else that they have, and so.
So they don't have these, or
they don't have them,
but everything else is good enough that
like everything else is great. That I mean, I shouldn't say that they have a lot of stake. What's it called? Table stakes. They have a lot of table stakes that you've come to expect with email. But even I guess what I'm saying in particular is like their calendar integration, their calendar features with your things, because like it works with Gmail so well, but like their calendar integration is just.
Before you go into that, let's roll back for a second. So you talked about kind of like them from their perspective of how they're trying to build the business and how they're trying to make sure they're doing something profitable and it makes, it can scale presumably. So can you kind of walk through a little bit maybe that like could be like the pros, not the pro, but the shining moments or the pitfalls that you saw, like if you go through that life cycle. So you first had this process where you found out who they were like what Superhuman was about.
Yep.
I'm curious, did that like maybe you could even tell me like what did Superhuman represent to you, or what did they? You're dating Superhuman at that point. You found them on the app and you swiped in the direction. Like who are they?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it was they had that mythical creature, like what is this thing, and I want this. And I guess if I'm being honest with myself, being that I want to be ahead of the curve and like kind of be in things before people know about them, like I was excited to kind of jump in.
Okay.
So I sought them out a little more. I actually asked a friend for, his name is Matt. I asked him for an invite and he sent me one over, and he actually warned me. He's like, hey, this is $30 a month. Yeah. So, but he's like, it's dope, but it's $30 a month. Yeah. And I was kind of like, oh shit, like, that's kind of a lot. Again, it's not a lot, but it's just when you're looking at email, you're not thinking about a price. Well, you know what I mean?
And again, hat tip to Superhuman, because like you're not the only person they made go from 0 to 30. Like
no,
it's not just a money thing. It's like it's just the fact that like they're getting a lot of value for nothing to move them up that chain.
Although so sorry, my thoughts are scattered. I want to go into like the good stuff they're doing. I want to go into their branding, their onboarding, their product, their marketing, the things they're doing right. But yeah, to your point,
I was curious as you go through that. Maybe you can kind of walk us through just like your path of like going.
So let me just walk through how I kind of got introduced and what I thought. So it's interesting. So before I used Superhuman, I used I tried Polymail. And
the polyandrous email client, right?
Yeah. So. And that was paid, and I paid a little while for that. I paid about $7 a month for that. And I paid for it because we had some team stuff we could do, some email tracking that was interesting. I was sending out important things that I wanted to make sure were getting delivered and people were reading, and I wanted to kind of try that out. So obviously Gmail has like free extensions you can use for email tracking, it's also, I'm going to stop there for a second. So the email tracking thing, when I was researching Superhuman, is they got in some hot water. So with all the data privacy, all the privacy stuff, it's kind of frowned upon, and there's a lot of people that are pretty heated about the fact that you're inside of their email and you're figuring out what they're doing. And they are
just in the respect that if I sent you a message, I know if you opened it.
Yes. People are not happy about it.
Oh, okay.
So one of the other things they did, they were also feeding you like geolocations where they opened it from. And that pissed people off. They have left in the email tracking. I think by default it's not turned on, so you have to turn it on if you want email reading now. But because they're like, it's table stakes, everybody else kind of offers it, so we kind of feel like we have to. And their approach has been more like, you're kind of used to it with your, even with iMessage, where you text someone on an iPhone and they have read receipts on.
But I would say that it's the inverse.
Yes, because they can turn it on.
I can turn it on. Yes. You can't turn it on.
Right.
Me,
so that's what I'm bringing that up because they say that, and then it's like you can So a lot of people are still really frustrated and feel like they shouldn't be doing that. So
to me, that's like the core like dichotomy between like when you're marketing, you want every advantage. When you're marketed to, you want a moat.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like, and you're the same person. You're not a bad person or a good person, but you just have a different agenda on the other side of that coin.
Yeah. So. No, it's crazy. So, all right. So moving on with my experience. So I get I get this email from my friend, and later on I find out it's a really easy way to send this email, but I thought he took this time to write this email. He said, "Hey, I think his name was Sahil. I can't remember his name, but
the CEO, right?
No, it was someone else. And he said, "Hey, just referring JR. He's really excited. You're gonna love it." And it's like, here's the fastest email experience you've ever experienced in your life, and blah blah blah. So I get this email. He instantly responds, says, "Hey, great. Let's set you up with a demo. Yada yada yada." So I get on with a gal, and she's great. Like she knows the product inside and out. And it was super interesting. So before I get on the call, so again, this is like for people that are building a product that are maybe still in that beta phase and trying to find this product market fit. This is a really good experience that you could maybe try to emulate some of these pieces. So I obviously show interest for a demo. So rather than a normal demo where a BDR or a sales and account executive gets on and kind of pitches me, they're like still pre-qualifying me. They're like, "Hey, are you on an iPhone? Do you use and they're sending me all these questionnaires, and I've got to answer probably, a decent amount of questions. And I kind of felt like, if I answer it this way, are they going to be mad? Or so I answered all these, even like down to like you use keyboard shortcuts. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, so
I got kicked out of
you did, yeah. So,
I had to write back.
Yeah. By the way, I sent Clayton an invite, and he didn't make the cut. So I will tell you about it in a second. Yes, I know. So anyway, once I kind of passed that initial test, I get an email with this gal that's ready for the demo.
Yeah.
Before the demo, she says, "Hey, very very specific instructions. Download the Mac app. Here's a link. And also, if you want to use it on your iPhone, go download the Test Flight app through the App Store.
Oh, damn.
And then download, and then I'll send you a link to download the Superhuman app." So there's a ton of friction at this point. And then, by the way, if I want to take the demo, click this link and pay now.
Oh, you had to give him a card, right?
Yeah. So I had to go in, and then, by the way, I just went to Superhuman/pay, and it pulled up a Stripe modal, and I just put in my credit card, and then I was like, okay, and then I waited for the demo.
So you waited for the scheduled demo, right? Yeah. And actually, I remember some of this happening too. So, okay, let's pause there for a second, because there's some interesting things to unpack. One, like everything else in the world, it all boils down to like just basic relationship mechanics, right?
Yep.
So like you said, there was a shit ton of friction you had. Most stuff that would just tell you to like be done and like bail.
Oh yeah.
But by design or by a mix of fortune or whatever, like all that back pressure they developed across like demand, scarcity, right? So like it's a hot ticket. Like you've heard, first you've heard good things about it. It's not shit. It actually
which sorry, real quick, might go back to his whole strategy of let's wait 2 years.
Maybe.
Let's get a stellar product and then we'll launch it.
But then you could have just opened the gates, right? And said, I hope people come and buy it.
Yeah.
So again, I'd be curious if you wonder, I'd love to chat and like know like the details behind this. Because sometimes like necessity creates these beautiful situations, right?
Yep.
But you have like the mechanics of that are that they have someone who essentially, when you get referred, you're already super excited at that point, right? You've already got like your buddy who kind of gave you like an extra ticket to go to the club.
Yep.
there's 3 bouncers in front of that club who are asking different questions. Mm-hmm. And so, it's interesting. Like, if you
it's almost like this pent up sexual frustration.
Yeah, right. No, seriously.
Where you're like, give me the shit. Like,
because I suspect too. Like, you knew on the flip side of that like if it was shit, you could cancel and be done.
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, they greased the wheels and gave you enough like momentum and like pull through to. That's not the right word, but like pull forward, right?
Yes.
To get through that friction. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I remember the same thing. I'm like, are you guys joking? Like, I have to give you a card for a demo. But because you'd heard all this stuff about it, so it makes you wonder. Or I guess this is my question to you.
It's smart though. You don't waste the time of your sales reps.
You don't, and they were also timely. Like you said, like that guy responded really quickly, but he wasn't. And I again just purely second guessing their mechanics. There's someone who's doing that. He's not the person who did the demo. It was another person.
Yep.
So they had this quick response, and they kind of have like this doled out duties of who does what. But your experience there was, I have a lot of desire. Yep. The desire's been built through like the normal branding stuff as well as some other things. You basically have the old dribble method of like, you get to hit up somebody for an invite. Yep. And then when you get there, they quickly respond to it. They capitalize on your excitement and your momentum. And then when you're actually inside it, I remember that they well, you should talk about this, but they do some specific things to actually find out what matters to you and how to make sure that the product.
So okay. So here's where we're at. So I put in my credit card and I wait around. Yeah. And then I think I had the demo the next day.
Oh, okay. What was the day before you got the card? All right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I can't remember, but they I also feel like they to their credit she did it. This is what happened. This is what I'm trying to say. Because of the process I went through and her getting on the call with me and her being really specific around my needs and what I needed and what I wanted. And the screen share was really interesting. We used Zoom and she made sure I shared my screen and watched me download the app and open it up and connect my accounts. And as I did it, if I use my mouse, she would say, stop. Hold on. I see your cursor moving. Stop. Use your keyboard. Hit Command K. Command K is their big thing. You hit Command K, pulls up this big thing, and you can do it. And so she had me connect my account. I connect my account. It imports everything, and she lets me go through everything, like every feature, right? Like she's hit this, hit that, and I'm like, now archive an email, now read an email, now read an email, and now add a thing to your calendar.
Are you actually in your own email account at that point too? You're in your account, right?
Holy shit. So
are you looking at your I guess I'm curious if was it odd at all that you had your account open while she's there going through your email or?
Yes. No, right in front of her, I have my account and it's literally pulling up all my personal email.
Huh, interesting.
And she's watching come in and she's helping me figure out how to archive, how to star, how to add folders, how to add labels, how to add everything.
Small detail, but out of curiosity, because I don't remember, did she say in advance we're going to look at your email? Like,
no.
Okay.
She did not. And what was interesting is it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like someone was coming at me. It just felt like, she was trying to
be helpful, right? And like,
I guess I had like a deeper connection with the product team. Like the team and the product.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
That's what happened. That's the whole pull through I was trying to make. With the whole onboarding experience, it was super friction. There was a lot of friction. There was a lot of steps. But at the end, I felt like this connection to them. And when I was done and I was onboarded, because at this time, they have my credit card. I'm onboarded. I'm going. My email's in. Got everything going. And she's walked me through everything.
Yeah.
I still had questions because I'm still getting used to this keyboard shortcut thing. And and even to this day, even till maybe a month ago, I pinged them with an email question and they answered within 10, 15 minutes.
Their team or the same person?
The team, just someone on the team. Gotcha. Yeah. So
really, that's
super responsive.
It sounds like the theme from the start, though. They're super responsive at the beginning. You found their support to be super responsive, right? And then what's interesting is, like I said, there's all this like other stuff to pull you through what would have normally been a too high friction experience. But there's a corollary thing that you had experience where it actually made you care more about them, right? Like, because when you were vetted, so you felt like you were actually probably a better fit, because they would have kicked you out at a certain point and said, hey, we're not the right product for you at this time. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, you actually had touch points with a couple of real human beings along the way, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. So that was, Okay, so that's everything with. So I've gone through kind of a little bit of the branding. It's stealthy. It's even if you look at their stuff, it's very. They definitely spent a lot of time with the design of the. It's very meticulous with how they want things to be. Even when I first signed up, the CEO was sending me a 30-day drip series of every single email or every single tip that he could think of, and I actually waited for the email. Like it was like.
Well, that's okay. I want to stop there
because the emails were so he would give you a tip about how to use it because you're using keyboard shortcuts and how to do this and how to do that, and it would have a screenshot of the phone and it would be like a GIF of it where you could kind of see it rolling through the thing and see what it does, and it's just so new to you with this keyboard stuff and like just even when you get into the whole app itself, it's this. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. There's not a lot of buttons. There's not a lot of buttons you can click on. Everything's with the keyboard, and so
there's a curve to get up.
There's definitely a curve to learn, and But I think what it does intentionally is this focus it drives with your email. Once you get into your email inbox, you're like, you're hyper focused.
Yeah, because so you have this. You don't really have an onboarding. You have an introduction in that call.
Yeah.
Then you've got this interesting period of, like you said, like a few weeks.
Yep.
To really start changing behavior, changing your habits, getting some muscle memory around this thing. And I suspect, like, in that first month, you're kind of on. A lot of people are on the fence. They're gonna like hit that point, or they're gonna bail.
Yep.
And like you and I have suffered enough drip campaigns that like most of it, even for a product I love, I don't like. There's like 99 out of 100 drip campaigns I couldn't care for.
Well,
what made these, out of curiosity,
compelling? I think one was the way the onboarding went. I felt like I had a connection to the team, and I felt like kind of how you felt with Figma, where you could email them and they would respond to you.
There was real people there.
I felt like it was a real person that was coming from him himself.
Yeah.
And they weren't long emails. It was just like, hey, happy Tuesday. Here's your next tip. And he even prefaced it before you would get them. Like, hey, this is coming. Keep your eyes out. I'm going to email you every day for the next 30 days. And you're going to get a tip of what's going on. And it wasn't from like getting started guide. You know what I mean? It was personal, and it wasn't, you know what I'm talking about. So that's everything with the onboarding. I think, so just to kind of move a little bit ahead with the product and the marketing itself, and I'm going to move into some of the bad that I found. So this is all the good stuff, right? Clearly, majority of their stuff is good. So the product itself is, they tout themselves on speed to everything,
efficiency, right? Efficiency.
Yeah, they have, even on their marketing side, if you go to the homepage, it's this 100 millisecond, and they say that the founder of Gmail talked a lot about 100 millisecond being this threshold that they wanted to hit where every interaction was 100 milliseconds because it feels instantaneous. It feels like it just happened. And so they brought that back and tried to make sure everything you do in the app is just extremely fast.
And that's always been the case for you, in your experience?
For the most part, they just recently did an update with the iOS. So I've been using it for...
You're a big phone guy, so you usually use it on your phone, right?
Yeah. So I've been using it for what, like 8 months?
I think it's been longer.
Okay. So, yeah, maybe, almost 12 months. So it's been great. Honestly, it's been so fast. I've never had a delay. I've never really had a crash. I've never really had anything. I had a recent updated iOS, and it feels, this is really dumb, but I'm just so used to it, is when I'm looking at my email and I want to swipe right to archive it, there's this, I don't know if it's an animation delay or whatever, but it's literally like almost back to that 100 milliseconds where I swipe it, and it used to, I could just go, just swipe through everything, and it's not there now. I have to wait for the delay to finish, and then I can go.
Oh.
And so even just those little things, been so accustomed to them, I'm like, oh, well, that's, So the speed thing, I guess, is kind of a big thing.
Well, so it's interesting when you say that. It makes me think, like, we look at companies and, like, there's usually, like, a very small handful of things that are, like, the defining factors of them, right? They carry through on why they exist. They carry through in their marketing. And if they do it intelligently, it carries through in all the decisions they make in their product and how they invest. So for them, speed and efficiency, that's really, like, that's kind of the reason they exist, from my understanding. Like, otherwise, you just go use something else. Like the keyboard, everything about it is trying to make you more quickly and more effectively move through the burden that is email. Yep. Right? And so it makes, everything about that. It's interesting. Like, even like that stuff that might be exciting but isn't necessarily aligned with that, isn't to your interest. Right. Yeah.
So, so that's everything. So the product, the product's great. Honestly, it does what it's designed to do and what they tout to do. I'm not going to go yet into the bad because they have a very specific reasoning and focus of what they want to do. And it all goes back to that original product market fit where they found the 40% that were raving fans and figured out what they need most in an email client rather than all the other things that
presumably there's a lot of those 40% people.
I mean, even simple things like I talk about their calendar integration being kind of weak, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting because if I'm emailing someone back and they say, hey, can you meet tomorrow or Thursday? I'll open the email and the right panel will pull up a little view of Thursday and I can toggle through. If I click on each one, it'll show me my day.
Oh, wow.
And even if I'm typing like, hey, are you guys free Thursday? As soon as I say Thursday, it pops up my calendar.
Oh, wow.
And it shows me what I have.
You should give me an invite to this.
So, yeah. So, like, little things like that they can't really talk about in the marketing. Like, it's there, and it's so powerful, but it's really cool.
That's
the way
what do
it
you mean
works.
they can't talk about the marketing?
Well, they can, but I just mean that experience I just explained to you in a person. You know what I mean? It's different.
Gotcha.
So, marketing. Let's talk about marketing just real quick. So, we've talked about branding. We've talked about onboarding. We've talked about the product. We've talked about how they even perceive themselves to the market. I love how he's so out there and all the founders are really vocal and how the whole team on Twitter, everybody really is engaged with the audience and even their email. You kind of get the whole, we're talking about experience, right? Like it's very well done across the board and it's very consistent. It's definitely the improved version, right? Like they're very presumptive that like we are the best, so choose us. You know what I mean? But it's not like in a cocky way. It's like in a we just believe it. So you're either in or you're out.
Well, what's interesting, I don't care your train of thought, but like you just brought up something that's really interesting. Like I sometimes wonder if like all that's like you and I are like when you're tapped into like the business scene, right? You kind of know like these founders and their stories and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that's like this little weird icing that like most people don't care about, and they probably don't. But in some respects, increasingly, maybe not. Like that stuff probably is a lot of it, right? Like you.
Well, think about it. I mean, think about it.
You care about a certain team,
right?
Are
you kidding me? Like, okay, sorry, switching gears. 1Password. Okay.
Yeah.
You ever heard of 1Password? LastPass, 1Password. All these
use it. Yeah.
1Password just got $200 million in funding.
I did not know that.
And everybody's on Twitter right now talking. I don't even use 1Password, and everybody's talking about it, being like, "You hate to see it," and I'm like, "What is it?" Yeah, they hate to see. They're like, now that they have $200 million in funding, they're going to be required to go out and get revenue, and they're going to lose all their focus with their users. And so, yeah, I guess we're kind of like went to this weird cycle where we're at, like it's kind of like why this show's here. Yeah. Like the whole experience is you're kind of choose things based on knowing a little bit about them. Yeah. You choose that brand, that company because they're from a certain part of the world, or they're led by a certain person.
But it makes you think like maybe it's also part of that thing. Like we talk about how like you get in more and more crowded markets, right? So price and like features aren't going to necessarily be the distinguishing thing. It's how you treat people. But part of that treating is, in fact, I guess we talk about it, but it's kind of like interesting to shine the light on it, that it's who you identify, like who you want to be associated with. So we were talking like before about design tools. There's like 1,000 of them right now.
Well, like
you kind of like there's certain camps you like to be in. This is,
and I can use Gmail, but like I'm not emailing Gmail and getting any, you know what I mean? Not getting a feature added or anything.
Exactly.
Okay, so marketing. They've clearly mastered the invite-only beta. Like, this is amazing. They have 150,000 people. Yeah, like this is amazing. Like the way they've done it, and and maybe it's because of the market they're in, where it's email, and they have a wide cast of an audience that they can go after.
Oh Christ, yeah.
Right. If you look at like, other products that maybe don't have a big market, your beta invite might be smaller, but it doesn't mean that those people on the list are probably raving fans. So you probably want to get in touch with them. And you also can't find this at the time. You couldn't find Superhuman in the App Store. I think you might be able to now, but
that would be contrary with how they're doing everything else, isn't it?
No, because you have to download TestFlight.
Oh, you couldn't get an account. You can download the app. You're saying
you can download the app. You have to download TestFlight and then get the access code to download. You have to redeem it, where they push an update to you through TestFlight.
Very hard.
Yes. And then obviously they've onboarded 15,000 customers. I mean, they tweet about it, they talk about it. I've gone to their Twitter and things like that, and they definitely are. They do this thing where every time one of their onboard specialists onboards their 1,000 customer, they make them walk down the hall and throw glitter on them and stuff. So they're clearly celebrating making money and bringing people on.
Well, and what's interesting too is you said they were still hyper responsive, even even with having grown.
It'll be very interesting. So they've been in business for 4 years now. They just got funding this year from probably the biggest VC. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, what changes. I mean, they have $51 million in funding. They got to make some money.
So I'm curious,
they got to get a return to these people.
Do you see a trend in where they're investing or where they think they should invest? Like they've got money and resources. Like, is it just merely keep doing what you're doing and do it slightly better, or is there areas that you think that they?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen.
Okay.
And I also haven't really been following because I haven't really been as much until I actually did this show. I actually didn't realize they raised a bunch of money.
Huh.
So I don't know. So so the bad. So I'm gonna move on to some of the bad stuff that I think that they, the obviously from the branding, a perspective, a perception of who they are. They got in some hot water around the email tracking. I mean, geolocation.
They're part of a bigger body of water.
Yeah, they kind of got looped into everything. Yeah. Kind of a terrible time to be doing that. And the email tracking is one thing, but I think the geolocation was definitely like, oh shoot, like that's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. You could be, who knows what people use things for, and so you definitely got to be careful with that. So I mean, it's not anything that they could have maybe. How do I say that? It's just something I noticed when I Googled Superhuman reviews and things like. There's definitely a lot of people talking about it.
Do you feel they handled it well?
Yeah, he came out and he was pretty, like, I'm sorry and we made a wrong choice and we didn't realize how big of an impact this would make and but we're gonna keep it in the product. You know what I mean? So people were kind of like, all right, so you didn't really mean what you said. You know what I mean? But I also I can understand both sides, right? I can understand the privacy, but I can also understand it's table stakes. A lot of email providers offer it, but I guess it comes down to like, what you stand for and what you want to believe in. So,
yeah, interesting.
So let me talk about the product for a second. So, because this is interesting because the product itself is still missing some key features, but I say that in the vein of not necessarily maybe who they're interested in right now. It's more in the sense of power email users, or not power, but like big, large organizations with calendar invites and managing. They're not really. It's designed around smaller teams that are not so reliant on like having so many meetings every day and living in their calendar, like kind of, you know what I mean, in that more corporate vibe.
Yeah.
They also don't have a unified inbox, which I know is something that was important to you. I used to have a unified inbox, and I found that I really like not having a unified inbox anymore because of my focus. Because I feel like if I'm in my work email versus my personal email, I'm in a different mindset.
So sorry, you gotta stop there because that blows my mind a little bit. Okay. You of all people, you are very like connected on like communication channels.
Yeah.
I am like that weird guy who lives in the woods in a cabin online. Like you get a hold of me like a couple hours a day. So how does it not like drive you slightly nuts that that means are you just jumping between those boxes, like inboxes, or how does it?
Yeah, I found that if I'm on my phone,
how do you accomplish feeling like you are connected? Is a better way to ask.
Well, first, I mean, I guess it's so. Well, first of all, it's if I'm on my desktop, it's different, right? Because I'm in my work mode. If I have Superhuman up, it's intentional, and I pop it up, and I go like a full screen with it. I go actually a full screen with my email now, and because I used to have just the Gmail tab open, and I found that it was killing me because I'm kind of all over the place sometimes, and if I'm in my Gmail tab answering, and then I all of a sudden see a Slack notification, and I'm back on my Chrome, and it's all inside Chrome, you know what I mean? Not Slack, but like
I hear you. So
you know what I mean? Like so, yeah. Where this,
space.
I'm like, boom, I'm in here, I'm in. Doing this thing.
So you'll jump through like, this account to that account.
But then personal stuff, I mean, it's more like on my phone. I'm just, and it's really like literally, it's the simplest thing to just fly through your inboxes.
All right.
And it's pretty slick.
We may not have time to dive into this, but it just occurred to me, like you mentioned all this stuff about keyboard stuff, but you've been talking about the phone.
Yeah.
So gestures are like where they've been winning on the phone email and making that better and different, or what?
No, it's all the same in the phone. There's nothing different.
Same as other
swipe
email
to archive, click it. I mean, And in fact, I will say, like, they have a little bit of so one of the things that I was going to say in here was, like, there's some formatting issues.
Okay.
Not issues, but, like, they have their own way of formatting emails. And sometimes I've actually missed, like, a key part of an email because of the way they format it.
Oh, interesting.
So I've had to make sure there's, like, these weird 3 dots. I have to expand the email in its original format to actually see it. And sometimes threads get broken because of the way that it almost feels like you're in a text message when you're emailing on Superhuman on your phone. So there's that, the calendar integration. But again, they talked a lot about how, they didn't use their calendar a lot. So it wasn't really, and then the people that they found that were like, they're very disappointed people, the 40%.
Yeah.
They were kind of in the same boat that they were, so they didn't really think a lot about it yet.
About that price point, Jay, like,
yeah, it's weird.
You and I have been there's no, well, maybe people pay for stupid stuff like Outlook, but like, can you imagine like a corporation paying on like $400 a month or a year for their for people's email accounts, or even like half that at an enterprise account?
I don't know. Maybe.
I guess I'm curious. Like, I'm wondering if
it's definitely like
for that market.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a power email, like an executive, a business owner, a sales rep, a BDR, an account executive.
But it does.
But if you're a developer, you
Yeah.
don't need Superhuman.
But it also catches, like you just mentioned, like a lot of features that would warrant someone to want to pay for. Because you have the efficiency thing. Like, I just want to get through my day better, and I value my time. That's a certain group. But a lot of people are going to be like in the marketing space and other things where they can capitalize on being better email.
Yep.
And so that's where those are the features, like the tracking, are going to be even.
Well, I actually remember the first time I used it too. So one of the things they don't have is they don't have like teams. So like in Polymail, you could if you're, let's just say me and you have our personal emails, plus we have hello at Weave or support at Weave. And we could have that in there. We could have manage that, and we could leave notes and things. They don't have anything like that. Which I think is kind of a powerful feature.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to say was no discounts. I remember when I first joined, I was like, "Hey, can I get my other teammates on here?" And they're like, "Yeah, just send them an invite." And I'm like, "Well, I can't just add them. Like, I can't." And they're like, "Yeah, they got to go through." I was like, "Well, is there a discount?" They're like, "No." So like, even if we added our whole team, there's really no discounts. There's no and everybody have to go through the same invite process, and so it's kind of a little cumbersome that way. Where if you were able to like you said, literally pull like gravity, pull someone over to this other thing, and they're like, "Dude, I got to get my whole team on this." And now you've got another, that same layer for all of them.
You mentioned at the very beginning too, like what got your eye was seeing this in the footer of an email, which isn't uncommon, right? Like sent by this. And so you look at like Slack, you look at like even other tool, like the collaborative tools, email and others, like that kind of weird social net marketing kind of that happens, and that, or it's like one person uses it and someone else either gets wind of it or they want to use it because it's going to make them better with the first person. Or in your case, like you have a team where we can pull the trigger and have everyone do it, right? Like.
Well, and I guess the final thing I'll say on the bad thing is the jury's still out that if they take away some of that hidden, I'm behind the scenes, I'm behind the velvet ropes, when they open that up and allow everybody to use Superhuman, what happens? You know what I mean? Did they lose some of that vanity? Because
100%.
Because I will say, when I was doing this research, I was kind of like, why am I paying $30 for this? Like, this is kind of a lot for just a few things I get.
Well,
and I could probably accomplish this in Spark.
I would say too, a slightly different way.
Gmail.
I bet you get a lot of value out of it because you're not stupid. You're not just paying for it randomly. But it's tricky. Like, if someone else came along with similar functionality to Superhuman, or when the day comes, So do you remember? Like, it reminds me a little bit of the dribble thing. Like, there's a name for this weird psychological defect we have as human beings. Like, it's like, but where we basically want something much more until we actually own it. And I can't remember the name of this like idea, but. So once you get it, you're like, meh, and you stick it in the closet, you don't care anymore. Yep. So I can guarantee as soon as they don't have that, like that's going to affect it. And then what's tricky is actually if someone came along with similar, unless they've really cut a moat behind them somehow, in terms of how technically difficult this is.
I mean, I will say, I'm actually just visualizing it in my head, like the keyboard shortcuts, like I can fly through my email.
Oh yeah,
without even touching my mouse,
which is worth it.
Yeah, but like you said, that's not that hard to replicate.
I don't know. Like, it makes me wonder.
And that's scary. Like, a differentiator for Superhuman is going to be very hard to find once someone copies them.
So let me ask that question. You've used it. You are a user. You're still paying them. So tomorrow, I guess I want to ask you two versions of this question. Tomorrow, I say, Jay, we got to cut the budget. We don't have any money for your fancy-ass email account. How pissed off are you? You're going to be like...
I don't think I'm in that very disappointed category.
Okay.
I think I'd be like, all right. It was fun. You know what I mean? I had my time with it, but it was fine.
Okay, and then secondly, if another place came around, what about Superhuman and what they've done for you in terms of that relationship has made you like? Where would be the tipping point where you suddenly?
I will say, yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, if they added a little bit more to my calendar, because I do like to like make sure my calendar's going, and I manage my day, and then. The team aspect's interesting, more in the sense of, I think that this is pretty normal with most SaaS companies, is you have a team, whether it's founders like me and you, and then you have your regular team, and you're all managing like a support or a sales or a, whatever.
Especially through community, totally.
Yeah, so if we could all kind of see that inbox together and leave notes and manage it, but at the same time, it's tough because then you're using Zendesk or some support system. So it
might be a different purpose.
It's interesting, yeah. And I guess it all depends on the organization. If you're a team that has a 50-person sales organization who's like living in their inbox and they manage to sell, you're not going to use a Zendesk for that. So maybe, you know what I mean? There's probably different use cases. But I mean, yeah, it's tough. I mean,
It reminds me a tiny bit, complete weird random tangent here, but okay, so we haven't talked about Descript yet, but I want to bring them up here. So for those who don't know, Descript is now positioned itself as a podcasting tool. It's pretty badass. It started as a kind of machine learning kind of transcription service, right? Mm-hmm. So they took and they'd had that for a couple of years. Yep. So it makes me wonder if someone like Superhuman is like, if they could hone in their technology and get really badass at it for whatever that, I don't know how thick that problem is to solve technically. And then if they maybe find, like you just brought up an interesting case, like if you suddenly said my team I can codify like really good practices and thinking across a big team and let them do it efficiently through this tool, like a big support team.
Yeah.
Then that's a lot of money on the books, right?
Well,
like a lot of,
they do tout this like AI triage, and it works both ways, where it's spam filtering, but it's also like your most important emails they push to the top.
Bring the noise up, yeah.
But it's no different than Gmail.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really seen anything different. Yeah. So
there's clearly a lot there that you've actually like are enjoying for as a consumer.
Yeah. But I'm trying to play devil's advocate of,
Well, would you? Okay, so let me finish with this one. So.
But if go ahead. Just last thing. It's $30 a month. Yeah. If I feel like I'm getting, through my speed of my email or whatever it may be, if I feel like I can get the return on that, you know what I mean?
Oh.
Like, then it's worth it, right?
I mean, not for everyone, but yeah, when you have a certain point where you can afford it and your time is, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so the last question for you I'd have is that, so I did try this. I usually love tools like this. I love the keyboard a lot.
Yes, you do.
And I don't like email a lot, but I like the idea of being able to get through more quickly.
Yep.
I had a couple of hangups at the time with the Gmail part being exclusively Gmail since I have other sources. The unified thing I kind of liked. All that said, would you recommend to me, is this something you think Clayton, this is something you haven't fully realized and understood, the value this can bring into your life? Is this something you'd highly recommend it to, or is there a certain kind of person you'd recommend it to?
Yeah, I think it's very certain. I was just going to say not for you.
Okay.
I think it's a very certain person it's probably a little bit more heavy in their email inbox. Mm-hmm. They're doing a lot of emailing with custom. Again, I think that account executive salesperson, not to say you're not emailing people, but you know what I'm saying? You're not living in your inbox and trying to communicate with people and managing communication effectively that way. But okay, so you're very good at communicating, but me and you were talking, the team's talking in Slack and
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So Superhuman is pretty badass. It is something you're still using.
Yep. Yeah. So okay. So yeah. I mean, I think it's a great tool. I think there's a lot that people can take away from Superhuman in terms of the onboarding and the patience he had to build the product. Yeah. I think those are the two big things. Where they spent some time and then they've really done a good job with the invite only. I think what I'm worried about with Superhuman is just how do they keep up with this and how do they stay around. I really do like them and I love what they're doing and I'm a happy customer. I'm probably on the fence between very disappointed and not, but I think that if you're listening to this, I think you should definitely go and take a hard look at if you're in this situation with product market fit, you're building a product, figuring out how to create some excitement around your product. This is a really good example for that.
Well, the fit in particular, like you said, the invite thing is not just a gimmick. It actually is helping them really dial in the right person behind the product.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's exactly. So yeah.
Well, the improved email cocktail.
There you go. Yeah. Improved whiskey, improved old fashioned, improved email.
Well, cool. Well, I guess thanks for coming to the experience. Hope you stay for the drinks and another one in the books, man.
Yep. Go check out the drink after this. It was a good one.
Cheers.
Yeah.
The Experience is brought to you by Weave.com, the innovative tool that is helping SaaS companies automate their customer retention. As always, thanks for being a supporter of the show. You've had the experience. Now stay for the drink.
Welcome to the bar. Jay and I are here. We love drinks, and just like everything in our lives, we like making them well. So we're making today an improved whiskey cocktail.
Nice.
Jay, have you ever heard of this drink?
I have. Once.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
we made it for the show.
I did.
But that's the only reason why I know.
Yeah. So an improved whiskey cocktail. When they first were cocktails, when they first were coming about, you had things like the old fashioned and that, right? Whenever they'd improve something, they basically would change out some of the ingredients for other things. So instead of sugar, we're using a mix of maraschino liqueur and sugar. This is a simple syrup. The reason it's a different color is cane sugar. And then it also gets a little dousing, the tiniest kiss of absinthe to it. So let's give her a shot.
Oh, and look at this. We've got 100 proof rye.
Yeah, this is actually, so for those who can get a hold of this is like a workhorse of cocktails. Rittenhouse, beautiful rye, not too expensive, 100 proof, delicious. So first things first, we're gonna put in that little bit of absinthe. We're gonna kind of work our way up from like the bitters up to the booze. So what I find is really useful is rather than trying dumping this in, because absinthe is a very strong taste, especially when you have it in a cocktail, you only want a tiny bit to really accentuate the other flavors. Putting it in like a little dropper bottle, you can get these pretty cheap, is super handy. So here, I happen to know this recipe calls for about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And whenever you see things in recipes that call for like a dash of this, a dash of that, it's hard to know exactly what they're after. This one calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon. We're making 2 here because Jay and I are both having a drink. And so I have a 1/4 teaspoon here, so I'm just gonna fill this bad boy up. And this will give us our little bit of absinthe that we want kind of to complement this drink. So it's not much at all. But that flavor carries through pretty strong.
That's crazy, that just that little bit.
Okay, so now we're going to add our sugars. And our sugars, we have essentially a 1/2 teaspoon of simple syrup. And I've got a half teaspoon over here. And some jiggers will also mark kind of like a 1/4 ounce is a little bigger than a 1/2 teaspoon, but there's 1/2 teaspoon of that, and we'll double that up because we're making 2. And then we'll do the same for our maraschino liqueur, so which is our other 1/2 of that sweetener. So it's, again, like if you kind of think, what we're doing here is essentially an old fashioned, but we're just getting all sort of fancy time on it. Like some bartender in like 1892 was like, you know what, screw it.
Well, honestly, like, just call me lame, I mean, boring, but one of my favorite drinks is just an old fashioned. Well, I just love a good old fashioned.
A really well executed old fashioned is a thing of beauty.
It's so good.
And this drink, I'm not saying it's better or worse. I mean, they are a little presumptuous with the improved title.
Yeah.
But it is just a variation of that.
Sure.
As our mini drinks. Okay, so what have we done so far? We did a little bit of absinthe. We did, which is our seasoning. We did a little bit of sweetener. We have one more seasoning. We need some of our Angostura bitters. It's kind of what the world of cocktails was built on. So for this, we want about 3 dashes per drink. And a dash is really a good drop like that.
Wow.
And Angostura is like, I don't know, this whole I think it's the island of Trinidad that makes this stuff. I think the whole national economy is built on this stuff. It's just, it's used everywhere. It's so amazing. All right, so we have that, and next we need our rye. So we've done everything else. So we're gonna have 2 ounces of rye per drink, and this is where it comes back to that old-fashioned template. An old-fashioned is essentially predominantly about drinking the booze, having good booze, and rounding it out with a little bit of sugar and accenting the flavors with a little bit of seasoning. So our seasoning in this guy, it's absinthe and bitters, and our sugars are these 2. So now we're gonna put in 2 ounces per drink of our very delicious rye. All right, and there's all the ingredients. And now, this is a stirred drink. just like an old fashioned is. So we need some ice in here. And the ice is essentially, as you know, helping us do two things. It's helping us chill the drink and also dilute the drink, both of which are equally important. So we're gonna stir this for about 20 seconds, maybe a little less. When you have a drink that's served without ice, you wanna go like stir for a full 20 to 25 seconds to really get the dilution. If you're gonna serve your drink on ice, you can go a little less than that because the drink will continue to dilute inside of the glass itself. And you can get different, like, sort of things for stirring. The bigger, longer spoons let you really stir in a super fancy way and impress all of your friends. It's actually, I think the whole idea of like making drinks is like a magic act. Like once you figure it out, like you're most impressed with yourself first and foremost, and then maybe like your friends are impressed.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, once you kind of learn
the basics,
like
right?
like 3 or 4 drinks, you kind of realize that a lot of them just use a lot of the same things.
Exactly. All right, so now we will get some ice in our drinks. If you have it, using like a big ice cube is nice in these. It dilutes a little bit more slowly, but any ice will work well. So we'll throw a few cubes in each of these. And then strain our drink into that. Kind of a pretty color in this guy too. And what's nice about a stirred drink, if you stir it well, is you just get some kind of really nice kind of velvety texture on the liquor itself. Okay, so there's one last piece of this drink. So as with an old fashioned, you dress it usually with an orange. This drink you can dress with an orange or a lemon. And so we're gonna use a big Y peeler here. We're just gonna grab some nice fat slices of skin from a lemon. And it's amazing the amount of like effect that a piece of citrus can have. So here we're just going to hold it above the drink, spritz it across by folding it there, drop it in, and same over here. And there, my friends, is an improved whiskey cocktail.